Canadian Minister of National Defence, Paul Hellyer, famously once came out and said that there have been at least 4 alien species visiting planet Earth for thousands of years, and that several more are visiting us today. He was one of the first people I ever remember talking about this federation of species and how they are watching over planet Earth. So that in mind, here is my top 10 aliens visiting planet Earth. At number 10, the Arcturians. So the story of the Arcturians goes back millions of years. They're supposedly the first species that ever populated the galaxy and seeded life all over the Milky Way galaxy. Many different forms have evolved over millennia, as you'd expect, but generally we see them at about 5 foot tall, greyish skin, and very humanoid type species. They're very, very mentally developed, as you'd expect as they've evolved over time, but quite physically weak. You could take them in a fist fight, but you probably ain't beating them at chess. They're supposedly a kind and loving species, even though other researchers have said that this is the one species that if you come in contact with, you should run from. But kind of vague on the reasons why, especially seeing that you could knock them out with one punch apparently. Other researchers though say that this species doesn't actually exist in the physical realm anymore, and they long ago developed and ascended into the 11th dimension, becoming a being of light. How do I rate them? Well, the bulk of the evidence tends to suggest that you shouldn't really have to run from this species. They're not particularly threatening, so 1 star out of 5. Influence on the human species. Lots of people have claimed to be remote viewing Arcturians, and they do have a story of peace and love, and they are very wise and noble creatures. So I'd rate them 3 out of 5 stars. First contact? Well, this idea of first contact I'm really going to say is like official first contact, like alien species to land on the White House lawn, and that we really, maybe even get an interview with on Fox News. So from a first contact point of view, probably 1 out of 5. They're not really going to be all that interested in that. Number 9, the Nomus. Now this is an old story, and this is related to the Dogon tribe of North Africa. So this Dogon tribe, they talk about a species of people that visited them millennia ago and told them all about their home world on the Sirius star system. Now, until 1950, we thought the Sirius star system was a single bright star in the sky. We then found out, as telescopes developed, that it is actually a binary star. Now, the Dogon tribe have known about this for hundreds of years. How can that be true? Did they have some sort of technology, telescope technology, that has been lost to them over the millennia? Or did a species come here to Earth and tell them? The Dogon tribe also have a creation myth that is very similar to the Big Bang theory of how the universe came to be, and seem to have a knowledge of subatomic particles. Again, unless somebody told them, how did they know? So rating them. Run, 1 star out of 5. They've been here before, they didn't wipe us out. I don't think we have a great deal to risk from the Nomus. Influence over humanity. Once upon a time, they had great influence on the people of the Dogon tribe, but today, it doesn't seem to be. So, 2 stars out of 5. First contact? 3 stars out of 5, because they have been here before, it would seem, and who knows, maybe they'll be back. Number 8, the Ielts. A lot of alien researchers suspect that this will be the species that we have first contact with. They are supposedly responsible for the 1997 Phoenix Lights incident over Arizona. They're a kind and loving species, very advanced technologically, and have a very strong technological relationship in their cultures. So, should we run from them? No, it seems that they may potentially already be visiting here, and their agenda might be quite a peaceful one. Influence? I put 4 stars out of 5. It seems that they might actually be here, and they actually are trying to communicate and get a message across to humanity. So in that case, they already seem to have quite a strong influence. First contact? A lot of researchers believe these will be the first official first contact species we have a relationship with. So let's just see what happens. Lucky number 7, the Anunnaki. Now, there are several stories about the Anunnaki, so we'll go through them really quickly. One is that they came here from Nibiru. They found a primitive human species, and they genetically engineered us to mine gold for them that they then take back to Nibiru, vaporize into their atmosphere to protect their planet as it disappears off into the deep space on its very long ecliptical orbit. The Sumerians talked about these giants, these kings that lived for hundreds of years, and they weren't particularly always that friendly. The story goes that we love gold and we have an obsession with gold because the Anunnaki actually programmed it into us. We are programmed to do what they say, genetically engineered for their needs. There are a lot of people that say they are still psychically linked with the Anunnaki and that they are returning, and that more and more of us are going to have this programming activated. Once Nibiru returns, the Anunnaki are going to want their slaves back. So, should I run from the Anunnaki if they appear in the night sky? Yes, 5 stars. What is their influence on planet Earth? I put 3 stars, mainly because once, obviously, it was total. Their influence was total. They made us, they programmed us, they genetically engineered us. But they're not here now. And is it a first contact possibility? Well, the Sumerians would say, most definitely, that they are returning and that they're going to be here soon. So, 4 stars. 6. The Reptilians. Now, I asked my amazing subscribers, which species do you think has the most influence on humanity? And the number 1 answer? Reptilians. Supposedly they've been here since ancient times, possibly even forever, possibly even evolving on planet Earth. Other stories suggest they actually had a conflict with Martians, their planet was destroyed, they came here. You've also got the Hollow Moon story and the Hollow Moon theory, and that the moon is actually a reptilian base, a spy satellite, if you will, watching over planet Earth. But the reptilian story really comes down to that they are an underground species, pushed underground actually by the Anunnaki. Many theorists believe that the reptilians are a shape-shifting creature and that they are actually among us on Earth, that they are awaiting to take over. There's lots of stories how many people in power are actually reptilians in hiding. I also don't necessarily believe a lot of the stories when you see photos of the Queen with her eyes going that way, but maybe. So, should you be fearful of them if you come in contact? Well, yes, if a reptilian appears in your back garden, run from it. Their influence. Many people believe their influence on humanity is 5 out of 5. I personally don't always necessarily believe the stories, so I've gone with a 4 stars. First contact? Well, let's hope not, because if it does, it means they're here to take over. 4 stars. Number 5, the Alpha Draconians. Now, not to be mixed up with the Reptilians, because there seems to be a lot of crossover with the stories and the ancient history of both of these species, and they, at the end of the day, are very lizard-like people and have very similar appearance. Supposedly, again, these are one of the species that have been here for thousands, maybe even millions of years, visiting the Earth. They are also supposedly, again, like the Reptilians, a shape-shifting species. Now, there's 2 conflicting stories about where this species come from. Some say they come from Alpha Draconis, a binary star system. Others say that they came from Alpha Centauri, a planet called Dracos. They are supposedly the masters of a very powerful empire, and an aggressive empire. This is a species that like invasion, and from a Star Trek analogy, they're a bit like the Klingons. There are other stories to say that these are actually a dimensional being, that they have traversed into our space from either an alternative Earth or from an alternative dimension. They also don't necessarily travel with spacecraft from star to star, they travel using some sort of dimensional drive. So, if you come face to face with a Draconian, should you run? Yes, 5 stars. Their influence on Earth. It seems to be quite limited, 3 stars out of 5. I believe that they would want influence here, but I believe there are other powers, like the Galactic Federation, that aren't really allowing them to have the influence here that they'd like. First contact? Like the Reptilians and the Anunnaki? Let's hope not. 3 stars. 4. The Nordics. Blue eyes, blonde, 6 foot, 7 foot, goddesses and gods. There's been a lot of sightings of the Nordics over the years, going back to the 1950s in particular, when a lot of researchers said there was a lot of evidence to say they were visiting the Earth. Historically as well, the Nordics are named that because they are related to the old Nordic gods, Thor, etc., etc. They're very environmentally friendly aliens. They want us to look after this planet, and they're very concerned by the fact that we're, well, not. So should you run from a Nordic? No. This is a peace-loving species, and to be honest, they're 6'7". You ain't gonna outrun them. So you may as well not bother. But they're a very peaceful people. Influence on the Earth, 4 stars. It seems that they've been here a long time, and when they do come here, they do want to get involved. They do want to tell us what we're doing wrong and try to give us advice on how to be better. First contact, 4 stars. It seems very likely that they've been here before, and why not that they're going to be coming back. 3. The Sasani. Also sometimes known the Shikani. This was a hybrid species between the Greys, who you'll notice haven't been on this list yet, and humanity. Now the story goes that the Greys have been cloning themselves for millennia, and that has meant that they can no longer naturally reproduce. So in an attempt to prolong their species, they created a hybrid with humanity. This hybrid being the Sasani. They were given their own homeworld on Sasani and allowed to live freely. They seem to have the best traits of the Greys, their intelligence, psychic powers, longevity, but also some of our better traits: love, passion, excitement, and, unfortunately, sometimes aggression. Supposedly they are about 5 foot, they have grey skin, they do visit the Earth, and they are members of the Galactic Federation. Now, many researchers have suggested this can actually be an aggressive species, mainly because we were an aggressive species and we gave them that trait. So, should you run from them? Well, 3 or 5 star depending on who you talk to, but I'm going to go with just a flat 4 stars. Their influence on planet Earth? It seems to be a bit limited on how much actually they are coming here, how much attention they're spending on us, but at the end of the day, you could argue they are us. So, 3 stars. First contact? 4 stars, and this is mainly because they are us. If we're going to have an understanding with another species, surely it is going to be the Sasani. This is the species we have most in common with because genetically they are our cousins. If they were to come here, and if the Galactic Federation were to decide that yes, we're going to have first contact, official first contact, then maybe the Sasani would make sense as the species to be those ambassadors. Number 2, the Pleiadians. This is a species that's been talked about a great deal, and they come from the Pleiades star system. They are human-like. They are supposedly among us already, and they are, again, members of this Galactic Federation. There are people that say that this is the species that have that strongest telepathic link, and that if things like the CE5 protocol work, or when we remote view alien species, it's the Pleiadians that we're most likely to get in touch with, because they're the ones that are out there, they're the ones that are listening. And this species has stories that go back through our time. The Native Americans, the Cherokee, actually believe they are descended from a species from the Pleiades system. There are others who believe that the Pleiades actually seeded humanity, this thing called a star seed, and that we are, as a species, slowly ascending into becoming a light being, and that the Pleiadians are here to help us. So should you run if coming face to face with a Pleiadian? 1. No. All the evidence I come across with, as long as it's honest and their agenda seems to be one of love and trust and just wanting to help us evolve. So, no. 1 star. Their influence on Earth. It seems to be quite strong, so I've gone with 4 stars. There are a lot of people that say they are in telepathic communication, but there seems to be limited evidence on that they're actually physically coming to us. Unless you believe, obviously, the CE5 protocols that we can call them to us. First contact, 4 stars. I think it is pretty likely that if, again, the CE5 protocols are accurate, that we're actually having regular contact with this species already. It's potentially possible they're having regular contact with our government. So yes, an official first contact could very well be Pleiadian. Number 1 in our top 10, it had to be the Greys. From Zeta Reticuli, there's potentially 2 types of grey alien. The short 4-foot-ish greys, and then the much taller greys. Lots of stories have suggested that the shorter greys potentially are a slave species, and actually the Pleiadians have been seen with the greys by abductees. The taller greys seem to be the masters, and they seem to be a little more malevolent. They're not as nice as the little fellas. Researchers like B. Bryan have said that basically 70% of most of our sightings of UFOs are probably greys and their flying saucers. We have some of the best evidence that the greys are here. The Betty Barney Hill incident, for example. And how many abductee cases over the decades? So it would seem that if an alien species is visiting us, the most likely or most regular visitor is the grey. And they seem to have an agenda. Now, I know Steven Greer believes that all aliens are lovely and kind, but I generally believe that any species like us, you're going to see people with different agendas. You're going to see different species with different agendas. It would seem that the grey has such an agenda. They seem to be stockpiling human genetic material. They seem to be stockpiling humans. Why is that? Well, if we go back to the Sasani, it would seem that genetically this is a species that can no longer sexually reproduce naturally. So they are finding other ways to prolong their species' existence. And they seem to be using us to do it. So, should you run? Yes. But the evidence tends to suggest it's not really worth it, because they will use some sort of tractor beam technology or paralyzing technology and just take you anyway if they want you. Influence. 2 stars. They do seem to be coming here, but they don't seem to be actually that interested in us, other than as cattle. So even though they are coming here and they are influencers, it's not in a positive way. That I don't think they're interested in us as a species, except for what they can take from us. First contact? You could argue that this is 5 stars. Every abductee victim over the last 50 years would say they're here, they've been here for a while, and they're coming here regularly. I would say at the moment though, it's 3 stars. I think it's more likely another member of this Galactic Federation is going to have that official first contact, and that if we step into a new dawn of a relationship with alien species, it'll be through them. The wild card. Humanity itself. So, as I've mentioned a couple of times in this video, humans might actually be a product of alien technology or alien bioengineering. So in that case, in fact, could humanity be the alien? There is also a story to suggest that humans actually came here from Mars hundreds of thousands of years ago, following a war with the Reptilians. It's not actually a story I believe, or is even remotely true, but it's a possibility. So, as a wildcard entry, could humans actually be the most influential species on Earth? Should you run from humans? Yeah, we're really good at violence. Are they influential? 5 stars again. Yes, of course we're influential on the planet. We're wiping it out after all. And first contact? Well, that's kind of a given. What do you think is the most influential alien species to be visiting our planet, and why? Also, we're going to be doing far more in-depth videos on all of these species, the Galactic Federation, and what the real evidence is. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.